Okay, so I'm gonna put this up on the Entertainment Guy page, and I apologize I'm posting this late. It's 11 o'clock at night, my time, which means it's 2 in the morning Eastern, and it's middle of the night or morning, depending which part of Europe will be watching this. Way back. I'm talking way back. Before, well, let's see, I worked at my old job for 9 years, so it was before that, and it was, I want to say 15 years ago. Days of a forum. You know, when you did, before Facebook was big, big, big. Everything's on Facebook. I'm not putting this on Facebook. And yet, ironically, I'm going to post this to Facebook because I have friends on my friends list who are still friends with me from a different time in my life. I wasn't always known as the hockey guy. I was known as Scavenger. Scav for short. I was known as the boss of the CWA, Championship Wrestling Association. And it's a company name I came up with that I had no idea had already been taken by a real company in the South. I believe Jerry Lawler ran it or was in it or one or the other. It was in that Memphis area where all wrestling once revolved before WWE became the only show in town. And the CWA was a brainchild of mine back in the 80s because I would watch wrestling all the time. And I came up with my own characters. And I came up with Scavenger in 1987. So that's 31 years ago I came up with this character. And he was a man of the streets, and he was heavily based on Dusty Rhodes. Because Dusty Rhodes at the time for me was the best promo in the business. Just amazing. And so Scavenger was born out of that. Now, then I found out about online wrestling e-federations. An e-federation means that you create your wrestler, you have a biography, and then you get matched up against other people pretending to be wrestlers. You cut promos, and at the end of the week or 2 weeks or however long you have to post promos, at the end of those 2 weeks, either you have a staff that decides a winner, or if it's what you call angle based, then the results don't matter as much. And yet, while I insisted on using an angle based federation only after the voting based went to shit, and I don't mean to swear, but that's the only way I can put it. The voting system just always blows up because you're always going to have people saying, oh, this guy won because you guys favor him. Oh, well, yeah, Vigilante won again. What a surprise. Vig always wins. And then you hear things about, oh, you know, Vig cuts heel promos and he's supposed to be a face, but all of his promos are written from heel positions. And then it would be, oh, Moose won because Moose is this and he's that. So eventually I just went, we'll just base it on angles. Meaning, I'll take it from here, guys, because every time there's voting, it falls into the crapper. And honestly, it wasn't as angle based as people thought. Every now and then there would be a role player who wasn't very good, who would get some wins in a row, but usually it would be in a situation where I would message the people that were against them and go, okay, just so you know, this week's result is to further an angle, and here's where I see your character going. Now, at its height, the CWA had about 30 handlers in it. And it was crazy. And I had to try to manage all these people. And my ex-wife and I ran it together. Now, this time around is different. Very different. I have a YouTube channel with a lot of subscribers, and that will be my first priority. Now, when I used to do the Efed stuff, I had a job that was my first priority, but I worked at a call center, meaning that in between calls, on lunch and on break, I could type away at my computer and get ahead of things. I don't really have that option now. There's a lot of things going on, and I can always be doing more research, more writing on the boards for stuff I have to do in the morning, that kind of thing. So I really have to manage my time well. But in the process of the channel getting bigger, there's always trolling issues. And there's always this and that. And I have to not say things that I'd like to say. There are plenty of times that I would like to say a few things to certain people and for different reasons. And so, in my eyes, you know, bringing back the Shannon character from the CWA days kind of works best, because then I can take some of the trolling stuff that happens and incorporate that into a storyline on the site, and I'll be darned if I don't think that's going to make for some entertaining writing. Now, for anybody who's wondering, it doesn't cost anything. Part of the reason that the CWA and e-fedding in general just fell apart is we all got older, we all got jobs, we all got families, and we just didn't have time. And there was no money in it. So we all had to have full-time jobs, and money, that wasn't a thing. And whenever an eFed would try to charge for something, or at all, on any level, people couldn't find the door fast enough. It was like, oh, yeah, I'll be right back. And then they'd be over on another forum within hours. Like, you're not going to believe how selfish this Fed is. They expect to get paid for their work. I used to do my results on weekends, and I would have these really long events. So, you write matches, and I would do like tournaments. And I would do the entire tournament as one night. So I'd go from 16 wrestlers to one, and I blame this on the WrestleMania tournament that crowned Randy Macho Man Savage champion way back towards the start of the WrestleManias, because I always found that fascinating, and it was an entire tournament in a night. Although watching it now, and I watched highlights of it about a year ago on a DVD I have, and I thought, you know what? They really screwed people on this. There were a lot of double countouts, a lot of buys, a lot of DQs, a lot of really quick matches. So it looked like this big epic tournament, but it kind of wasn't, because you can't expect a guy to go out and wrestle 4 full matches in one night. That's insanity. So they did what they could to cut down the amount of time and the amount of matches, and not only that, but of course crowd's going to have fatigue. Part of what WWE is having trouble with right now is I think the crowd gets fatigued. You have hours and hours and hours and hours, and it's just, by the end of a live showing, you can be really wiped out. I know even from going to house shows, and I'm going to a house show next month, you can be wiped out by the end of a house show. You're like, man, I'm just tired. And it doesn't really matter necessarily if you're really into it or you're not really into it. It's, 3 hours is a while. And at the end of 3 hours, unless it's something you're really interested in for the main event, party is thinking, boy, we could probably go to the parking lot and just leave. So there's that. But as a fan of and I know it's not a sport, but it's an art form. I'm very proud of the fact that there were a number of people who were a part of my wrestling site 15 years ago who are now actual wrestlers. They have regular jobs, but outside of the regular jobs, they do wrestling. They actually do professional wrestling. And a couple of them, pretty darn successful at it. And I envy their courage for stepping into the squared circle. Personally, I've always envisioned throwing together an event locally at a gym, or like in a school, and just get a wrestling ring and bring together guys that they used to be in my eFed, and I could come out and be the big prick owner and talk up a big storm. But the actual wrestling, I could see myself taking a bump in the ring. I could see myself, saying, yeah, go ahead and hit me in the chest and I'll take a dive. And I probably wouldn't really have to fake the dive. I would probably really get knocked backwards. But outside of that, it's one of those things that when people ask, well, what will you do when your channel gets really big? There's a part of me in the back of my mind that goes, you should throw together a wrestling show, which has nothing to do with hockey. So that really doesn't work, but there's a part of me that would love to do that. I'm in my 40s, and I've always wanted to do something like that. So the closest I'm probably going to get is putting a CWA forum together, which I will link in the description for this video, and try to figure out a way to be able to make this work for those of us who have jobs and we don't have the time that we may have had before. So if you were in the CWA previously, by all means, I would be very grateful to see you on the new forum. And if you're like, I don't really have time for that, neither do I. So we'll just figure out a new way to do this. And I've seen other feds are still going, and some of them are doing pretty well, and some of them kind of aren't. And it's because, again, you get older, and just, I think it's sort of like it's reinventing the wheel. So I want to do something where I reinvent the wheel from an eFed perspective, and have something that is really uniquely CWA. So I'm very glad that Max signed up for the forum right away, and I kind of knew that when I reached out to the handler of Max Cameron that he'd go for it, because Max Cameron versus me is a match that always works, always, always, always. So that kind of has to happen, and I'm kind of feeling like since it's been so long since I did this, I have to come up with completely different storylines and angles, and way that the whole thing gets done. So for anybody who's completely confused, if you're at all interested in wrestling, I honestly the number one thing I could recommend is look up what an Efed is. Look up Efeds, different Efeds. Um, there was the website Rough Cut, Roughkut. I don't think Cut still has a site up. I know his forum got taken down a while ago. He got rid of the forum. I don't know if he still has the site. I think he does, but he ended up not having the time either, and it just wasn't worth it for him anymore. And it was just basically just a bunch of advertising, and what you end up with is a bunch of kids that create feds, and then they get tired when they see it's a lot of work, or they go back to school and they don't have time. And that seems to be that happens a lot now with YouTube channels, where kids will create a channel like, okay, I'm going to do this based on what somebody else is doing, and then either through not having time or it just doesn't work out the way that they want it to, it ends up not being around for a whole lot of time, and it doesn't make them failures. I didn't even declare feds back in the days as failures. I would look at a new fed, I would look at the fed owner, and I'd go, they're immature. I really don't think this is going to last. But I wouldn't qualify it as a failure because it was not unusual for somebody to not get it right the first time. And I think that happens with YouTube as well, where people may not get it right the first time, and it takes a few times for them to get their niche audience and then start building on it. And for anybody who thinks, well, you just did it and got it, I was making videos in 2014, and I didn't start getting views till 2016. So it took me 2 years to start getting views on anything. And I did videos not just about myself, but I did videos about Doctor Who. I did videos about TV, movies, and whatnot, and nothing. I couldn't get any views on any of it. So, it takes time, and it's a matter of finding your niche. And I think sometimes with eFeds, people would try it one way and then they tried another, or I know with eFeds too, people would try it one way, they try it for like a month, and then they do a complete restart, and they'd clear everything out, and I'd be like, I stopped doing that. And I did it myself the first couple of times because I was very insecure about, can I really do this? Is this really going to work? So there you go. Again, I apologize this is late, but I wanted to get this done before I go to bed tonight. I haven't got my board set up for the morning, so I got to do that in the morning. So I'm not going to have time to do this in the morning. So it's one of those things. But I wanted to post this. I'm going to post a link to it as well on the forum. I'll post it to Facebook because I love irony. To Crying Facebook, which I do regularly. I only have Facebook because of two reasons. One, to prove to people who know my wife that I exist, that I'm not somebody she made up. If I don't have a Facebook profile, she's married to just a name, and also because with the hockey guy page on Facebook, which has 1,830 followers, I have to have a personal account attached to it so I can make posts on it. So, it's one of those necessary evils. And I've thought about creating a dummy account, a fake account, and just taking my name off of it completely. But at the same time, I have family and friends, and I don't feel like I necessarily should have to do that. So, all right, there you go. Championship Wrestling Association is back, and I'm going to start messing around with the forums and trying to figure out ways to customize it as much as possible. Before anybody asks, I don't have any intention of having moderators because I know it'll get asked, so I'm going to throw it out there now. I don't intend to have moderators. Mods are not necessary yet. But again, I don't see this as being something that my wife and I are going to be working together on. I'm going to take this is my thing. This is my chance to vent and to just relax and just, be crazy. So I can throw in Scavenger, I can throw in numerous other characters I created over the years and just have fun with it. And the moment it's not fun anymore, that's when we know it's time. It can be the toughest thing in the world to realize something isn't fun and it's time to give it up. And, do I have that concern with my YouTube channel? Sometimes. I have my days. I have my days where I'm like, you know what? Uh, maybe it's time. And then I think, no, no, nuh-uh. And I haven't had any of those maybe it's time to stop days in months. It's something that I do have concerns about, only because uh, of my own insecurity, and not necessarily because of anything else that goes on. It's just my own insecurity comes up at times, and I think, geez, can I really keep doing this? But there are enough encouragements and enough people who spur me on that I keep it going. So there you go. If you're curious about it at all, go ahead, sign up for the forum. As I said, it'll be linked in the description below the video. And again, if you're not into wrestling, you probably won't enjoy it. But I will say this: there were a lot of people who were role playing in wrestling federations that didn't watch wrestling on TV. They didn't enjoy it. When I write it, when I get into it, I think of it. I try to come at it from an 80s or 90s perspective. I don't really go for all the talking that you see today. This 20-minute promo at the start of a show, what the hell is that? No, you start with wrestling, you end with wrestling. You have maybe one promo during the show, and that's a setup bit that you have with one of the other characters to try to get a storyline going, and the rest of it, you let the wrestling tell the story. Which I think sometimes when I'm watching WWE or even Impact, or not ROH as much, but where there's so much talking, and it's like, can you let the fighting do the talking? Let the fighting tell the story. Let the match make the feud advance. Let that be your change. So, anyways, there you go. Very long-winded, but just wanted to explain this and invite people who want to take part that they can. But again, unique characters, just having fun with it, and being able to write. That's one of the key things is being able to write a wrestling promo. And it's something I did for years before I knew anything about the internet, because the internet wasn't really invented when I started cutting wrestling promos, because I would watch them on TV and I would listen to guys like Jake Roberts, Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan. I would listen to all this and I think, man, how would I deliver that message? How would I speak? How would I do this? And then I started creating characters and like, how would they speak? What would they say? How would they present it? So that's where it all came from. And then when I saw Efeding on the internet, I was like, this really matches with what I've been doing since the mid 80s. So there you go. A little bit more of a behind the scenes hockey guy thing, even though it's nothing to do with hockey, and more to do with the idea of something that a lot of people won't have heard of. But I'm going to give it a shot, because why not? Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happen upon this. And this channel will eventually hit 4,000 subscribers. I believe in it. I really believe in it. But it only gets there because of you guys, and I thank you for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.